Hello and welcome to Heavy Metal Rex. My name is Waze, and today I'm finally going to talk about something that I've mentioned a few videos ago, which is that I did join a race team. A buddy of mine here in St. Louis has a race team, Afro Speed, and I have been talking to him for some time now, actually since last year, and he's actually the one who really told me to go into rallycross, which that's what I did last year, but this year I've said that a big plan of mine is to change this car from its rally spec. As of right now, it's not even much of a spec at all. It's basically stock wheels now on stock suspension, into an actual time attack car. And maybe saying time attack is a little too much, but it is going to be far more track focused this year than it was even the first year that I had the car. Now, if you guys remember, if you go back to 2 years ago, I did do quite a lot of track days and a lot of autocross. But this year, I am actually going to be participating in Gridlife time attack, which is very exciting because I've never done it before. I've got a lot of buddies who do it. My good friend Dewey from IAG does it. Juan does it, who you guys will meet. He's the owner of Afro Speed. And what's cool about this is it's not just a race team. He's actually built a cool little a nonprofit which is designed to help minorities who want to get into the race field, and not just like actual racing, but people who do the actual engineering on aerodynamics, on suspension, on electrical work. It's actually pretty fascinating, and obviously a minority myself, it just made a lot of sense to align myself with something that I also believe in. There's a whole schedule that's going to be going on this year that I'm really hoping to be able to fulfill. Obviously, it does take me away from things like SubiFest, but I'm going to still try to make it to at least 1 or 2 SubiFests this year. Now, Juan, he actually races in this car behind me, which is the S2000. It's really cool. I'm going to try to get a couple of clips of that car driving around for this video. I've actually never been to Gridlife, so this is really exciting for me. And this is actually his shop where he does a lot of his work. He works on his car. He works on a couple of other cars. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to cut over to him, and I want to ask him actually some questions just so you guys kind of know what's going on. And also the questions are for me because I don't really have a full understanding of everything he does, because every time we talk, it's about the things that we're doing, not the things that we've done in the past. So I think it'll be pretty interesting. I think you guys will enjoy it. So let's go ask him. With my buddy Juan, who I met a long time ago in our local Subaru group. Who actually, like, I guess we talked online a bunch, and we actually never really met.
It's one of those things, yeah, because I bumped into you first. God, I don't remember. It was the
Winter Social?
I think it was like, yeah, it was like one of the first winter socials you ever went to.
Yeah.
And I was there, and it's sort of like,
No, the potluck.
Was it the pot? No, the potluck
wasn't the drag race.
The potluck wasn't it was because I'm just genuinely trying to...
we actually, this wasn't even part of the questions. So we actually, at Ecotech, you guys know I work there now, we have a lot of fun events that we do throughout the year. We had like the potluck, we had the Hot Wheels drag race, we have like the Winter Social, which is actually coming up. If you're a local person that watches this channel, chances are you probably already know the Winter Rally Social is coming up here in like, I think February 22nd.
Yeah, that's sick.
Well, we met in one of those places, and like he had said a bunch of stuff, and I was like, oh yeah, I know this name from like Rallycross. So that's where I feel like we really started talking, was when I finally got a chance to come out to Rallycross. But anyway, none of this is important. You have this thing called Afro Speed.
I do have this thing called Afro Speed.
I am now a part of this.
You are now a part of this,
which is really interesting.
Do it.
Yeah, somehow through all of that talking, I ended up here. So I wanted you to tell everybody, and also me, because I want to know more, what is Afro Speed?
So there's kind of 2 components to it. I don't know why I was about to do this.
That's 4.
Yeah,
or 2 hands.
Two. Anywho, long story short, there's 2 components to it. So the first component of it is what started back like probably 4 years ago now, which was just that it was the umbrella for all of my racing to fall under. So I've been super involved here locally in the St. Louis region doing everything motorsports related for the better part. I got started in 2016, and I've been doing stuff all over the place ever since. And so basically, for all intents and purposes, I just needed a way to, I wanted to actually start a business centered around car stuff, and I wanted to have a race team. I wanted to get sponsorships, partnerships, etc. So I need to have some sort of entity to run that around. So I started Afro Speed LLC back in 2020,
Yeah.
Yep.
COVID baby.
And so that started out in my garage, where it was basically just me building my race cars, helping friends work on their stuff, et cetera, et cetera. And then that kind of then expanded because a lot of people had moments in 2020 where they kind of reevaluated priorities, the way they felt about things. And one of the big things that kind of hit me was that, at least during the pandemic, I was actually in a really good place. And so, like, all of my complaints were like, man, it's really, really hard to save up to do race car things. And it's like, and
2020 or not, it's really hard to save up for race car things, period.
But long story short is that I sat back and I was just like, I had a lot of conversations with friends about, like, sociopolitical. So I'm not going to get deep into that. But long story short is that the conversation came up where I was basically like, you know what? At the end of the day, we are in a position, people who are really, really into cars and get to do things with cars are in a position of privilege. There are people who can't afford a car. Yeah. That beater Ford Escort, that, 20-year-old Dodge Neon. There are people who can't afford to do car things, let alone, to do motorsports and all kinds of other stuff. And so I had already had multiple, like, Gridlife events and, like, semi-pro events that I'd done where I'd just been like, hey, does anyone want a crew for me? I'll buy you food, room, board. I just need hands on deck. Yeah. And I just thought about the fact, like, a lot of them were younger people in their early 20s, etc. People who could drop everything, a
that
week
have the
before.
Time. Yeah.
Yeah. But then, like, every single one of them, first and foremost, all of them are still here. Everyone who's ever worked on our team that's local to St. Louis is somebody who's an active, like, participant in some way, shape, or form now. And just all of them were like, no, like, because I always for me, it was always they were doing me a favor. Right. And then a lot of my friends really started to drive home that it's like, no, dude, you funding this, doing all this, like, this is the coolest thing I do. This is the way I can be involved because I can't afford to, go to these events myself. I can't afford to drive a car at these events. And so getting back to the main point being that I kind of realized, I was like, you know what? There are a lot of people who, one, I don't realize how easy it can be to get into motorsports, which is what keeps them from getting into it. Or two, for the people who really don't have opportunities to, like, they would love any opportunity to just be involved because this is a passionate hobby. People are like, it's not just the drivers who are in it. There are photographers. There are people who just love.
I guess that's something that people forget, that when you see, like, any F1 race car driver or NASCAR, whatever you watch, you always hear the name of the driver, but you don't hear the 78 people behind that driver making that happen.
The people who lost nights of sleep to get there, who do all, and, like, it's all out of the love of the game. People love what they do. So long story short is that after some back and forths, once Afro Speed went from a little thing in my garage at home to actually a facility where I was doing bigger things and doing more things, I realized that I was in more of a position to actually really start to put a focus into that. So in September of 2023 is when I formally founded the Afro Speed Foundation. So that's the second part. That's our 401c nonprofit. And the entire purpose behind that is that is the business side that really focuses on trying to get more young people, especially young people of color, into motorsports. Because if I want to be kind of brash, brazen, I don't know the word for it, but long story short is that it's a very white hobby. It's kind of not surprising. Don't get me wrong. There are different, like, obviously, in other countries, like African rally. Yeah, it's a bunch of, but that's in Africa. Even then, though, it's a lot of South Africans.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't even think there is a Pakistani rally team.
Yeah,
I really don't think, because even when I play, like, WRC and stuff like that, Pakistan isn't even a country that I can pick. So there's like 80 different countries, and I get really upset because I want to put a Pakistani flag every time I play WRC. So actually, who even makes it? Is it Codemaster still?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're watching this video, put a Pakistani flag in there.
There's
that's
country
really
list.
annoying.
You can download a country list online. Put
it from a legit game, then then you can't play online or whatever. But put the damn flag on there so I can have it. It's very frustrating. I don't mind putting the American flag because I am a U.S. citizen, but, like, it would be nice for me to be able to put, like, a Pakistan. Anyway, that has nothing to do with this. I'm upset about that.
Getting back into that, though, is that, like, especially as a St. Louis native, there are tons of kids I've run into here locally in St. Louis that are really into cars and have no idea how to get started, or they don't know what kinds of things are out there, or they just, they're looking to do something. Like right now, one of my current like interns / team members, we don't really know what to label him, but Sam, he's a guy who I met because my cousin went to college with him down at Rolla, and he's an engineer. And he's one of those people where he was super duper duper nerdy about race car stuff. So much to the point that my cousin said, "Hey, my cousin's really into this stuff. Let me give you his number so you can stop talking to me about it." And so, like I said, the numbers got exchanged, and I ended up bringing him on, and that's his thing. That is his passion. He loves going into the engineering of it. He loves helping us work on his car. And so, like I said, I just realized that there's a lot of people who are looking for opportunities like that. And so I started up, like I said, that's why I started the Afro Speed Foundation, is so I could have a 401c, so I could start to work with more companies. So for them, it's a charitable donation, It's a tax write-off, all the other stuff. And then vice versa, I can then take all of that money and fund it and use it to fund the events we go into, fund maintenance on the cars. And the real goal that we're focusing in on is my goal by the end of this spring is to get enough corporate funding, and hopefully I'm working on getting some government grant proposals in right now. And we'll see how that goes. But long story short is that I'm trying to get more funding together, because essentially the end goal is for all the Afro Speed stuff not to make a profit, but to pay for itself. So that way the program can grow. And basically one of the things, I haven't like formally announced it yet, but my goal is by the end of February-ish is when we're going to start having applications up for our kind of formal internship positions. Because and I'm kind of half jumping the gun, but we'll go back to it. But as of September of last year, officially, my businesses are my full-time. So I'm now much more in a position to actually facilitate something like that, where I can actually be here at 8:30 a.m. and work here until 4 or 5 p.m. whenever the cutoff time is, versus before all this stuff was in my free time, what little of it
happening after. We all had some changes the last I think you and I had major changes about the same time.
Oh, it was literally
like the same
for
month,
you,
I want to say.
I'm trying to, it was
for me it was June 28th.
Yeah.
And then into the middle of August.
It was a few months later, because I saw the irony in it where you had just told me
about
you're like,
that. Oh, that sucks. And you're like, then you told me, I was like, oh, damn, that really sucks.
What do
we do now? I think that's kind of where like a lot of this conversation happened. And we're like, well, if we're both in this boat, let's just do something.
Well, because a lot of this all really started because you said that already Cobb was going to sponsor you to do a Gridlife.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, fuck, because that's the other thing too, is I've been really trying to foster the time attack community here in St. Louis, because there are a grand total of 3 Gridlife cars that I know of. If there are any of you out there that I just haven't met yet, I don't
in St. Louis?
Yeah, in St. Louis, there are 3 time
You're
attack
the only
cars
one that I know of.
Yeah, so there's me. There is Mike Coons isn't
Oh,
local to St. Louis.
Yeah.
But his car is here more often than he is.
I forgot about that. Yeah, he gets his car worked on over at Ecotech.
Yeah, and then there's a GLTC driver who's local here to St. Louis.
Okay.
I always forget his name. Super cool dude. He's got a white Miata. That's an Ecotech swap. So it's the GM Ecotech swap Miata in GLTC.
Wow. Okay. Now we should find who this person is.
Yeah, he's a real.
We should all get together and talk about this.
I chatted with him literally like 2 weeks ago. I'm just a terrible person because I've only had like 2 or 3 good conversations with him. So it's like the 4th time it's going to be like, bloop, he's locked in.
The 4th time is going to be me contacting him. He's going to be like, who's this guy?
Yeah, but like I said, that is like all of the Gridlife people here in St. Louis. And there's too many people in St. Louis for there to not be a better turnout from here locally. So like I said, whenever I heard that you were interested in it, I was like, well, let me do something to help you out to make sure it happens.
Yeah, I knew I was going to do at least one by myself. Like that was the plan, was actually to just go to one. I was going to drive there. I was going to do the race, hope the car didn't blow up, and then drive back home. That was actually my plan.
That's what I did. So I was a little more extreme. My first ever Gridlife was the Alpine Horizon Festival back in 2020.
Okay.
2020.
Where is that? Where is that one located?
That is located in Colorado, just outside of Colorado Springs in Colorado.
Okay.
So it's located at Pikes Peak International Raceway, which is about an hour down and over somewhere from the Pikes Peak International Hill Climb. So that's like that's the track that people usually do there for like during test month, essentially. Like the International Hill Climb is a huge event, but like when people do their initial testing, they'll do like their tuning and stuff at PPIR to account for elevation and all the
Okay.
other stuff, because you're already at like 6,000 feet elevation in Colorado Springs.
Already,
like,
yeah.
like literally when you're like, if you have like a gasser truck like I do, you actually notice the drop in horsepower as you get into the city, because you notice you gotta tip in a little bit more. Your fuel economy starts to tank. It's a whole thing. But anyway, so I went my first ever Gridlife. Literally, it was my buddy in his Juke, his dad, or no, it was my buddy in his FJ Cruiser. Oh no, yeah. So I'm sorry, it was my buddy in his Juke Nismo RS. Do you know about that car?
I know. I've seen them. I also can't believe that they exist, but yes, I'm familiar with Nismo model Jukes.
My buddy has the coolest Juke Nismo RS ever, flat out. Like,
not sure if that's possible.
It's still a quiet dude. Like, I'll send you a picture and you can put it up or whatever, so people can see what we're talking about. Super cool dude. And so he wanted to do HPDE with his Juke. I was doing time attack with my S2000, and then his dad drove his FJ Cruiser with all of our like tools and parts and stuff. Oh, man, and I drove the S2000 14 hours there, top down, because the AC didn't work and it was in the middle of summer. And then 14 hours back. After turning something, because PPIR is it's a roval track. It's like less than a mile. So I think I turned something like 60 laps around that track over the weekend, and then drove it back, and it was an absolute champ. But so like I said,
but you never really know in that situation. You never really know if like the car's gonna make it.
Oh, 100%.
And that's what and this is exactly why, because people ask me like, well, why don't you do autocross at Subifest? But I'm like, dude, I just drove 17 hours. If something happens to the car, like, are you going to let me spend the night at your house? Like, who's going to fix this car before I leave? At least going to something like Florida or Texas was okay, because Cobb is right there. So if at least the car breaks down, I can just drop it off in Cobb's garage, and then they can like fix it up and take it. Anyway, that was actually pretty interesting, because I actually didn't know about all that stuff.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you a few more. You actually already went through how we help people. What do we have planned this year? Because I saw the schedule.
Chris, sorry.
Oh, good.
Yeah, DoorDash, shut up.
Anyway, is that what it was?
That was the DoorDash.
Get the DoorDash on the camera.
But yeah, so long story short, so this year, the current goal is that the Afro Speed team as a whole is going to be doing 4 Gridlife events. Right now, we're going to be focusing on trying to do the Road Atlanta event, which is called Gridlife Special Stage. That is their partner event with Formula Drift at Road Atlanta.
Okay.
Then our next event after that is going to be Midwest Festival.
Yep.
Then our following event after that is going to be Summer Apex, which is at Road America. And then the last event of the year, we've missed it the last 2 years, and it is still going to be a massive push to make this happen, because this is a bucket list track for anyone, probably for anybody. Just flat out incredible track. Everyone loves it. Everyone was happy to go there. And that is WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca.
God,
and it's a no noise weekend on top of that.
What does that mean?
So Laguna Seca is notorious because it is located like just up north or south of like a bunch of subdivisions. And so it has noise limitations on regular track days, and on even a lot of different kinds of race weekends. There's actually still noise restrictions of like 95 decibels. So there's an entire, like, if you literally just Google Laguna Seca pipe, there is like there are shops at Laguna Seca that will rent them. There are shops that specialize in making stuff where it is essentially like bolt-on / clamp-on muffler setups that basically go, hey, and point your exhaust away from the decibel meter.
And that's so ridiculous that this is still a thing. Like, and like, what a popular track to even have something so ridiculous.
But it's extremely common. NCM, National Corvette Museum, extremely popular track. It's where Time Trials Nationals is at. Also a noise limited track. And so, but Gridlife actually, so Laguna Seca gets X number of noise-free weekends a year. Like, they basically have credits for it with the city. And so Gridlife is one of those events.
Okay.
So that's why it's actually a really big deal for enthusiasts, because it's one of the few opportunities to hear a lot of, like, because especially Laguna Seca, because it's out in California, that's like the biggest YouTuber Gridlife event,
right?
Where all your Vintra, your Hoonigan people, your all the big names in
So
this
that's
space.
that's another reason why it would be really worth it to actually go out there to we're there, but also you get to meet all these people.
100%. And so, like I said, a lot of the cars they bring are cars that sound amazing and are really cool. And it's awesome to be able to see those cars unbridled.
Yeah.
Because, like, I mean, real talk, the track events at, like, National Corvette Museum, they're not boring, but they're almost boring. Because, like, the car, like, when you're limited to 95 decibels, it's like stock. It's cars that are stock.
Mine
loud.
is over 95 decibels.
Yeah,
I know for a fact it is.
Like, it was really funny. The first year I ever did NCM, I actually had the stock. I had the full stock exhaust on my car because it was still stock powertrain, and I was cheap.
I want to ask you. You had this S2000. What's been done to it?
Yeah, so basically this car started out life as a bone stock AP1 S2000. It was a 2002 with the glass soft top window. There's a whole thing between 01 and yeah. But and it was a car I bought with 214,000 miles on the clock for $7,500 back in 2016.
That's a lot of miles.
And I beat the crap out of it for a year until the first motor went due to oil starvation. It probably would have gone further, but I didn't realize it was burning oil at the time, so that was my own problem. So after that, I had the motor rebuilt. I stayed AP1, so it's still the engine that revs to 9,000 RPM, the quintessential S2000 engine, essentially. And basically, the powertrain is mostly stock. It runs in the Gridlife Club TR class, which is sort of, I like to call it the cheap Honda class, essentially. Because the rule is we can't open our motors. It's factory long blocks, so you can't do like cams, you can't port your head, you can't do all kinds of little things to make more power. So it basically kind of caps all of the cars at around that 230 to 260 horsepower range.
Okay, really? That's interesting.
Yeah, just due to mechanical limitations. Because we also have to run we can't run like race motors and stuff like that. Like it has to be a factory engine. And so because of that, I didn't have a ton of reasons. The factory drivetrain is bulletproof at the stock horsepower, so it's still stock transmission, still stock differential, although we're hoping to change that this year. I want to go to a different differential. But most of the mods, I always joke about this, but real talk, most of the mods are the ones you can see.
Really?
So,
yeah.
We have an AP2 front bumper on it with the CR lip because that bumper combo is legal for what we're doing while still being a really low drag, high downforce application setup. We've got a homemade birch front splitter. We've got an APR rear wing. We've got and then the rest of the car though is really just a focus on handling and weight reduction. So we've got Olin's road and track coilovers. We're going to be switching to a proper two-way system pretty soon. We haven't decided the company yet. That's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
And then it's like I said, aero, suspension, like every suspension mod's been thrown at it. And it's really a mechanically simple car, and it's normally actually really, really reliable because of it, because it's not complex. We also have a big brake kit on from R1 Concepts. It's kind of hilariously overkill. It's basically the brake package you'd put on a Camaro ZL or Camaro SS ZL1 1LE. It doesn't have an SS in there.
I don't think so.
The big boy Camaro.
It's good. The thing is, it may be like too much, but then that's one thing you don't have to worry about.
Oh, 100%.
Throughout the entire event is your brakes.
Yeah, like actually one thing we've been talking about is, so I always said, as soon as this car podiums in Club TR, I'm going to retire it from Club TR and move to GLTC, which is Gridlife's wheel-to-wheel racing series.
Oh, okay.
That's always been my end goal, and Club TR, actually, the way the rule set is built, a Club TR car is basically a cage away from being a competitive GLTC car. So you just have to cage your car and then you're ready to go. And so that's why this is like a great feeder kind of series where you get your pace up, and then when you're fast in Club TR, you'll also be decently fast there.
In the next step.
But Gridlife actually just announced their new GLGT racing series, which is basically a similar rule set to GLTC, but it's a 9-to-1 power to weight ratio, which basically it gives a place for like retired GT3 cars to play and like TCR cars and like a lot of like old pro cars that are now circulating.
Because we all have a couple of those parked in the garage.
100%. Yeah, I picked up one
got
last
3
week.
right now. Yeah,
but like, but there's been like a lot of pros have reached out to Gridlife and been like, "Hey, I have this old TCR car. It takes up space. I'd love to do something with it." And it's been like, "Sorry, your car's too good for all the stuff we do."
I mean that makes sense because this is still like really grassroots.
100%.
All this is really grassroots for people to be able to go out. And actually, I actually considered all of this to be something that was really unattainable until I actually started talking to you and I started looking up stuff on the internet. I was like, it's not that bad, especially if you can just go to the one that's the closest to you. Because like I was thinking about Midwest Fest would be the closest to us. So I was like, or they have one in Chicago too, right?
Audubon. Yep.
Yeah,
that's
so I was
actually
like, oh, this makes sense. Just go down there.
One of our other sponsored cars just got his ticket for that event, so he's locked in. We are not planning to go to that one, so I'm gonna go to it to support him.
Okay, yeah, and that's the thing. Like, it's a lot of these people coming together to just have fun.
100%.
This really it is.
Keeping the
and
dream alive.
having fun sometimes it costs money.
It does.
And in our case, it's going to cost a lot of time because most, like my car is, it does need a little bit of work.
We got some things to do.
A lot of it is going to be more of a time crunch, which I know you guys, I've mentioned this multiple times. I'm still getting that SGI transmission, which I'm going to be doing myself. I kind of have people for most things like suspension. I've got somebody for wheels. I have people.
Tires.
Yeah, I have wheels. Wheels.
You have yourself
actually,
for tires.
Yeah, I have myself for tires, but Cobb actually got back to me and said that yes, they have that contact for Falcon, and they're going to give me that contact. And I was like, that we don't know if that's going to happen yet, but you know, for me, the nice thing is, and I will say, I'm in a position where it is definitely a blessing position where I can actually ask people to give me stuff, but also, how many VBs do we see right now in any kind of racing at all? The only one that we know of is like, you know, Travis and Brandon driving it in, you know, ARA.
Yeah,
but that's not really something that regular
or
people
the
are
legacy
do.
Guys like IAG. They have that Project Golf Ball. I think it's IAG that has that one. It's either IAG or Six Star. It's an orange VB that had hail damage. So that's why they bought it, because it was totaled out for hail damage.
No, I have not even heard of this.
Yeah,
isn't it Fortune? Because Fortune has an orange one. That's right, because I saw, what was the guy? He normally drives a Mercedes.
Yep.
He actually was driving that orange VB last year.
Yep.
And I remember I was watching it just out of like curiosity.
Yeah, because we were talking about it. I was like, do you know this guy?
Who's this orange VB in Gridlife right now? And his car was out, and that was their shop car.
Yeah.
And it was like completely stock other than FA coilovers.
Yeah.
That's it. 100% stock. And he was like, keeping pace.
It was like a top 5 or 6
but it's
car.
Also like he's a really good driver.
Yeah.
So, but then also
the
car
Mercedes, he was
really
a
good.
top 5 car.
Yeah. So that was really cool. But I mean, outside of that, that was not even planned. So if he doesn't bring that, there is no VB that I know of currently that is in Gridlife. If there is, let me know. But I haven't seen anybody else. So the goal is to be the first real grassroots VB that goes. VB. Yeah, actually, it is. These days, it's not really much. I mean, last year it was something. The year before, now there's a lot of work to be done. You said we're going to do graphics on it, which I cannot wait because I want it to stand out. It doesn't stand out right now. Wheels obviously are coming. Suspension
still got to get a design figured out.
I got to figure out the design. Yeah. So there's a lot that's going to be going on with it. I think I have a turbo, a smaller turbo, because I want to try to stick around the 450-ish horsepower.
It's an adequately sized turbo.
It is.
It's not
it's
small.
What we're going to do with it. I understand.
Exactly.
It's the motion of the turbo.
Yeah. it's the turbulence of the air velocity something. Yeah.
She doesn't believe it. She doesn't believe it. She just looks at the size of my compressor.
She's going to be blown away.
So there is actually a shop over here, which you haven't seen, but some of the work is going to be done at Ecotech. Some I'm going to be doing at home. Some I'll actually bring the car out here to do. Juan has some fantastic, great ideas, things that I never even considered. Like he was talking about making a splitter and side skirts at home out of birchwood.
100%. Birch plywood. It is the go-to grassroots racer solution because it's strong, but not too strong. Because that's one problem a lot of people run into. Like if you build yourself like an aluminum splitter or you build yourself a really, really strong composite splitter, if your chassis isn't stronger than it, then your chassis takes oopsies. And it's just never fun. I would rather rip off 10 splitters than need to do a frame rail repair.
People don't know this, and I don't even know if you fully know this. Once this car is done racing for the weekend, it has to come home and take my daughter to school. Like, it's going to be a basic and an advertisement everywhere. Because even when I go to school, like when I drop my daughter off to school right now, the kids love the car. When it's like in full race car mode, these kids are going to go crazy.
They're going to get sick, and it's going to be great.
It's going to be amazing. Anyway, this is already a lot longer than what I thought it was going to be.
You're welcome.
Juan, thank you very much. I cannot wait for this season to start. It's going to be amazing. I should have done that too, but
it's been great. It's okay. Not everyone can have the sparkle.
This is true. I think it's because I'm old.
Here, we can go again. You want to go again?
I knew it. I knew shit like this was going to happen. Anyway, Juan, thank you so much, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm going to post all the links down on the website or down in the description. The Afro Speed website, if you want to learn more about it, if you want to donate, if you want to help. Obviously,
everybody just want to say hi.
Yeah, there's no obligation for any of this stuff.
I do a lot of consulting work.
I always try to put this stuff out there. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you're as excited as I am for this year because we're really going to put the VB more so on the map, on the racing map this time. Anyway, we'll see you guys in the next one.